Won't you listen to reason? Will you open your eyes?
Mike in Colorado, how are you?
Hey, I'm not looking for any trouble.
All right. See you next week.
I feel like I'm in a movie. I'm the new kid who just walked into town, and people are like, "You looking for trouble?"
Yeah, with a capital T.
Hey, first, I just want to clarify before I ask my question exactly what your position would be on this, because I imagine atheists would have different positions on this. So would you say that when two people have a disagreement over the existence of something, that the person who is proposing that that thing exists, he has the burden of proof?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, see, I was wondering, like, in the atheist-theist debates, I mean, I've never seen this. I was wondering what your response would be. I mean, how come the theist doesn't just switch it and say, okay, this atheist over here is proposing that there exists a universe that was created by naturalist, properties, and I'm denying the existence of that universe. Therefore, all the burden of proof's on him. And then you could just go back and forth and back and forth.
Well, they try to do stuff like that all the time, but I'm not proposing that there's a universe that was created by naturalistic explanations. I'm proposing that there's a universe, which me and the theist agree on, and while we don't have a full understanding and explanation for the origins of that universe, and we don't pretend to, we're investigating it through methodological naturalism because that's all we can do. They are, in fact, proposing that they know the answer and offering it up, and so they have the burden of proof. Now, to the extent that we would propose a natural explanation for the universe, yeah, we have a burden of proof, and that's what science attempts to meet.
Okay, I'm kind of... Okay, so but as an atheist, are you saying you do or do not propose that there does exist a universe that was created by solely naturalistic means?
No, I'm not proposing that it's solely. I happen to think that that's true. But actually, this has nothing to do with my atheism, by the way. I don't do this as an atheist. My position on the origins of the universe is it's much like my atheism, is the result of skepticism and critical examination of scientific evidence.
Well, I guess let me ask you this. I guess there could be a difference between saying that the universe was created by naturalistic properties and saying that the universe was not created by God, right? Those wouldn't be the exact same statements, right?
Yes, they would not be the exact same statements.
Okay, well, I guess I could have been more clear then. So what if the theist just says, well, this atheist over here is proposing that, there exists a universe that was not created by God, therefore he believes in the existence of that thing, therefore he has all the burden of proof.
Because atheism isn't necessarily the assertion that the universe was not created by God, it's the rejection of the claim that it was, or among other claims about gods.
But wouldn't all atheists believe that the universe was not created by God?
Yes, I would say that all atheists would believe that the universe was not created by God.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's my question then. Good.
Because that's the default position.
Well, what makes that the default position?
Well, all right, no, we have the not in the wrong place there. It's not so much that atheists would believe that the universe was not created by God, it's that atheists do not believe that the universe was created by God. There you go.
Okay. But isn't that, but that's the same thing as saying that atheists are proposing that there does not exist a universe that was created by God.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. You don't get to just jump to the contrapositive and keep running.
Well, what's the difference between the two statements?
Sure. Okay, here we'll go back to the easiest analogy possible. It's my favorite. You're on trial for murder. It is a fact that you are either guilty or innocent, correct?
You mean that I did or didn't do it, or that I'll be found?
No. That you are, in fact, either guilty or innocent. That those are the only two options. You either did the murder or you didn't.
Yes.
Okay. Now, we don't ask the jury to consider both of those issues. We ask them to consider the question of guilt. And juries either vote guilty or not guilty. They don't vote guilty or innocent. And so
Correct.
the burden of proof is on those that are asserting, the prosecution in this case, that you're guilty. Now, atheists are the jurors who are voting not guilty. Some of them may actually be convinced that you are innocent, but that's not a requirement, and it's not anything that has to be defended. It's because of where the burden of proof is established. And so, as an atheist, at a minimum, you're saying not guilty, or you're saying, I do not accept this claim that a God exists. There are atheists, like myself, who go a step further and actually believe that there are no gods. But that's not something that we, have a burden of proof for. Now, if my goal was to convince somebody of that, then I would adopt, anytime you make an assertion about something like that, you adopt a burden of proof. So if I tell you I believe he's innocent, okay, and I can't prove it, well, then I'm done. And there's no point in discussing it. But if I think if I want to try to convince somebody else that he's innocent, then I can make a case for that, and I either meet my burden of proof or I don't. But it's the difference. There's a difference between guilt and innocence, and that's about the actual, in reality, true state of it. But guilty and not guilty as judgments by a jury, that's about belief positions on a question of guilt. And the same is true when you say a God either exists or either some God exists or no gods exist. That's just the only two options.
Uh-huh.
But you only address the question of some gods exist to determine your opinion. Theists believe this claim, atheists do not. And because we do not, it doesn't necessarily mean that we believe this alternate claim. Some do, some don't. If we were to reverse things, and atheists were running around asserting that there are no gods, as this is our position, then we would have a burden of proof if we hope to convince anybody. But go ahead.
Well, what is the difference between an atheist saying, I reject this claim that God exists, and a theist saying, I reject this claim that there is no God?
It's the difference between a juror saying not guilty and a prosecutor who wants to try to create a not innocent category.
I got a legal background, so I think that analogy is kind of, I'm thinking a little too much on it. Do you have another, okay, I was thinking about this. Okay, if two people are discussing, let's say back in the 1600s, before we really knew a lot about, how life evolves and things like that. Let's say 1600s, two guys are just having a conversation, and one guy says, I think that there does exist intelligent life out in the universe, and the other guy says, I think there doesn't, but neither of them really has any evidence. How come all the burden of proof is on the one guy who thinks that there does exist intelligent life? I mean, it seems to me like it would just kind of be a wash. Like neither of them, like they should both have burden of proof, right?
Well, if they're both, if your example is one is asserting that there is and one is asserting that there isn't, then sure. That's because one of them is asserting guilt and one of them is asserting innocence, to go back to the previous analogy.
Well, see, I don't think, but guilt and innocent,
you're ignoring
either way.
You're ignoring the default position, and the default position is a matter of existence. We take the world that we know of, and the one who's adding something to that has a burden of proof. I know about this much of the world, and you're asserting something outside of that is true and should be considered part of this world. You have that burden of proof. It's like
life on other planets. What's the default position?
The default position is to not accept that there is life on other planets until there's evidence for it. That doesn't do anything, by the way, to stop us from thinking that it's possible or interesting or exploring it. It's what encourages us to actually go get the evidence, to find out what the truth might be.
Yeah. Yes, I think, so what about, a long time ago, somebody sails, find a giant, massive land, so the default position would be that there does not exist any animals on that land, if you haven't seen any yet. That's the default position? Because you're denying existence?
No.
Ooh, now you lost me.
A lot of this comes down to where you're actually sticking the not in the sentence, to not believe or to believe that there's not. If you find land You have to give more information about what you've actually found, because
Okay, you and me,
let me
let's say
finish.
Like,
let me
300
finish.
BC or something. We come across a large landmass. We don't see any animals yet, but I say I bet there exist animals on the land. You say I deny the existence of animals on that land. So you have the default position, right?
No, I wouldn't. Okay, I'm assuming in your hypothetical that we're on Earth and we are in a sailboat somewhere and we spot land, right?
Yeah.
Okay, do we see trees?
Okay, yeah, I guess you could say large land animals. Yeah, then we don't have it's like 300 BC or something, so we don't really know about, let's say, large land animals.
I don't care about large land animals. Do we see trees?
Yeah.
Okay, so upon discovery, we already have evidence about the state of that place, and we take that evidence in conjunction with everything else that we know about Earth and the fact that life is prolific throughout Earth, and it's not unreasonable to say that it's likely that there are animals on this particular thing. It's much the same way that if we search the galaxy, we find a planet that is very Earth-like, we can say, hey, it's likely, based on what we know, that life either has or will evolve in the past or will in the future evolve here. But, you know, we haven't confirmed that it's actually true until there's direct evidence for it. But we don't necessarily have to have absolute confirmation for everything. We can believe things to different degrees of certainty, and we should always apportion our belief to the evidence that supports it. But the default position is not, you're making this something it's not. That it's as if, you know, we're just staunch cynics who are rejecting every possibility until we got evidence for it. And that's, I mean, we're rejecting claims until there's evidence, but it's not this blind cynicism of, we stumbled across an island. I think there's probably animals over there. Okay, cool. Let's go find out. Well, you don't believe there's animals there? Well, I don't believe it yet, but I agree with you that it's likely that there's animals there. It's the same way I agree with scientists that as big as the universe is, and from what we do know about the way life forms, it's almost absurd to think that there's not life of some sort somewhere else in the universe. And therefore, I think it's really likely. But I don't know it to be true yet.
Yeah. So if you had to kind of succinctly state the atheist position as far as like what the default position is, you'd say
it's not an atheist position on the default anything. This is Logic 101. This is not anything having to do with atheism. The default position is the default position, irrespective of your religious beliefs.
Okay. Would you say that it is, you know, until there's any evidence to the contrary, the default position is that you would deny? I don't want to.
Here, let me do this real quick. The default position is not to accept a claim until there's sufficient evidence in support of it. That's it.
Okay. All right.
Cool. Thanks for the call, Mike.
Thank you.
Sure. All right.